Forget everything you've been told about today's housing market, because what is happening in these 10 cities goes far beyond an ordinary slowdown. This isn't a market cooling off, it's a dramatic collapse unfolding in real time. And no, this isn't simply a repeat of the 2008 housing crisis with a different headline. In some neighborhoods, the situation is even more severe, yet it remains surprisingly absent from the national conversation. We're talking about home values being wiped out by as much as 50% to 80%, entire subdivisions sitting eerily empty, and homeowners trapped in houses now worth only a fraction of the price they originally paid. The biggest surprise is something almost nobody expected. Many of the markets once considered among the safest and strongest in America are now experiencing some of the fastest and deepest declines. Meanwhile, real estate agents continue appearing optimistic in videos and advertisements, even as many of their listings remain unsold for 6 months or longer. But the most unsettling part isn't just watching prices fall. It's how quickly many of the so-called experts stopped talking about what was happening once the numbers became impossible to ignore. From scorching desert communities to coastlines repeatedly battered by powerful storms, we're counting down the 10 cities that have suffered the most devastating housing crashes. And the reasons behind each one may be even more surprising than the statistics themselves. The full picture only comes into focus when you follow the chain of events that caused these markets to unravel step by step. Stay with us until the very end, because the city ranked number 1 might be the exact place you were seriously considering calling home. Let's dive straight into the damage. Number 10. Palm Springs, California. Palm Springs has long been sold as the ultimate desert getaway, a place where people imagine sipping martinis beside an infinity pool, surrounded by iconic mid-century architecture and endless sunshine. But the reality today looks very different. Instead of luxury and excitement, you'll find for sale signs lining street after street, as if even the desert itself has lost confidence in the housing market. At the peak of the boom in early 2022, home prices in Palm Springs were approaching $1.2 million. Fast forward to 2025, and many properties are struggling to hold a value of around $580,000. That's an astonishing decline of roughly 50%, and in neighborhoods heavily dependent on vacation rentals, some properties have lost closer to 70% of their value. California once promised buyers endless sunshine and effortless appreciation. Instead, many owners now feel like they invested in a financial sinkhole. During the buying frenzy, wealthy Los Angeles residents, investors, and short-term rental enthusiasts rushed into the market. Modest ranch-style homes were transformed into trendy, cactus-themed Airbnb properties, complete with premium nightly rates and eye-catching cleaning fees. For a brief period, the strategy seemed unstoppable. But that success didn't last long. Almost overnight, the business model began falling apart. Tourism slowed considerably, while relentless summer heat waves made the desert far less appealing during peak vacation months. At the same time, local governments introduced stricter regulations, limiting permits and, in some areas, banning short-term rentals altogether. With a few legislative decisions, thousands of investors suddenly watched their passive income plans collapse. Insurance has become another major obstacle. Companies continue pulling out of wildfire-prone regions, leaving homeowners scrambling for coverage. If your property is anywhere near dry vegetation or areas considered to have elevated fire risk, finding affordable insurance, or any policy at all, has become increasingly difficult. Owning a home has also become far more expensive in everyday ways. Electricity costs continue climbing, and water conservation rules have become extremely strict. In one widely discussed case, a retiree reportedly received a $300 fine simply for watering a single cactus. The local economy has suffered alongside the housing market. Jobs tied to tourism and hospitality have declined sharply, leaving many service workers without the steady employment that once supported the community. A city built around welcoming visitors suddenly needs far fewer people to serve them. Many retirees who invested their life savings or pension funds into what they believed would be their forever home are now watching that investment lose value month after month. Some have quietly placed their homes back on the market, accepting substantial losses simply to avoid watching even more of their retirement savings disappear. Even Palm Springs' famous golf courses, once crowded throughout the year, now sit noticeably quieter on weekday mornings, reflecting the broader slowdown affecting the entire region. Palm Springs was once marketed as the perfect warm-weather paradise. Today, for many buyers, it feels more like a $600,000 illusion, a landscape of stucco homes, screened-in pools, and empty expectations, waiting for buyers who never seem to arrive. Number 9. Austin, Texas. Austin built its reputation on booming tech companies, nonstop growth, and a culture filled with innovation, live music, and food trucks around every corner. It looked like one of America's unstoppable success stories. But today, that excitement has been replaced by something far less glamorous, a painful lesson in what happens when a market overheats. During the pandemic housing boom, home prices surged by more than 90%, creating the impression that values would continue climbing indefinitely. Then momentum came to an abrupt halt, catching buyers, investors, and even industry professionals completely off guard. The city's median home price has fallen from roughly $575,000 to below $385,000, representing a decline of about 33%. Even more concerning for homeowners, prices have continued drifting lower, month after month, with little sign of a meaningful rebound. Austin was often described as recession-proof because of its thriving technology sector. But recent events have challenged that assumption. Large-scale layoffs across major tech companies, including Tesla and Meta, combined with the collapse of numerous startups, dramatically changed the city's economic outlook. Office towers that once symbolized Austin's rapid rise suddenly found themselves struggling with growing vacancies and far less activity than anyone expected. At the same time, mortgage rates climbing above 7% brought the home-buying frenzy to an almost immediate stop. Buyers who had been rushing to secure homes suddenly stepped back, and demand cooled much faster than sellers anticipated. Many of the remote workers and digital nomads who helped fuel Austin's rapid growth have also moved on. The excitement that once surrounded the city has faded, and buyers are no longer eager to pay premium prices for renovated homes with trendy industrial finishes, especially when many neighborhoods face recurring flooding during heavy spring rains. Homes that once received multiple offers within days are now sitting on the market for 120 to 180 days, often requiring repeated price reductions before attracting serious interest. In one example, a newly built home in East Austin that entered the market at $799,000 last year has reportedly dropped to around $499,000, yet it still struggles to find a buyer. Meanwhile, many homeowners continue facing substantial HOA fees. In some developments, residents are still paying additional assessments for amenities such as high-speed fiber internet infrastructure, even though many nearby office buildings and residential units remain sparsely occupied. The cost of ownership keeps increasing as well. Insurance premiums continue rising because of extreme summer heat and ongoing concerns about the reliability of Texas's power grid during periods of heavy demand. Migration patterns have shifted, too. The steady wave of newcomers that fueled Austin's growth has slowed considerably. Some people who once relocated from California are now choosing more affordable destinations, with states like Tennessee attracting increasing attention. Hiring across Austin's once booming technology sector has also cooled dramatically. Positions that previously attracted fierce competition now remain open much longer, reflecting a far less aggressive job market than just a few years ago. The slowdown is spreading beyond technology. Restaurants and bars that once benefited from a constant stream of new residents have begun closing across areas like South Congress, while construction projects that previously operated around the clock have slowed, leaving partially completed developments waiting for better market conditions. Austin spent years branding itself as the next Silicon Valley. Today, it increasingly serves as a reminder of how quickly explosive growth can reverse when soaring home prices, higher borrowing costs, and a cooling economy all collide at the same time. Number 8. Naples, Florida. Naples has long been marketed as the picture of luxury retirement living, a place where beautiful beaches, championship golf courses, and a relaxed coastal lifestyle attract buyers from across the country. But beneath that postcard-perfect image, many homeowners are discovering a very different reality. At the height of the market in 2022, average home prices climbed to around $1.1 million. Since then, values have fallen dramatically. In many parts of the market, homes have lost well over half of their peak value, while some luxury condominiums have reportedly declined by as much as 80% from their highest prices. What once looked like a dream investment has become an increasingly expensive financial burden for many owners. Much of the shift accelerated after Hurricane Ian. The storm didn't just damage homes, it fundamentally changed how insurers viewed Florida's coastal risk. Since 2023, insurance premiums throughout Collier County have surged, with many homeowners facing dramatically higher renewal costs. One homeowner, for example, reportedly saw insurance on a modest $500,000 property increase from roughly $3,200 per year to more than $11,000 after a single renewal. Even Citizens Property Insurance, Florida's insurer of last resort, has become overwhelmed as more private insurance companies reduce coverage or leave high-risk areas altogether, making it increasingly difficult for homeowners to secure affordable policies. The costs don't stop with insurance. Many gated communities that once promised carefree, maintenance-free living now come with HOA fees approaching $800 per month, frequent special assessments, and strict enforcement of community rules that leave residents paying more while receiving less peace of mind. Property taxes remain another major challenge. Many owners continue paying taxes based on purchase prices established during the height of the housing boom, even as current market values have fallen significantly. Demand has weakened as well. International buyers, once an important source of luxury home purchases, have largely stepped away from the market. At the same time, many retirees and seasonal residents have begun listing second homes, adding even more inventory to an already slowing market. Even Naples' famous golf communities are feeling the impact, with quieter courses and noticeably less activity than during the boom years. For many retirees who relocated in search of a peaceful and financially secure lifestyle, homeownership has become far more stressful than expected. Instead of enjoying retirement, they're spending months negotiating insurance renewals, waiting for callbacks from providers, and worrying about whether coverage will remain available or affordable the following year. Behind closed doors, many local real estate professionals acknowledge that numerous luxury developments have effectively stalled. Sellers remain reluctant to accept how much prices have changed, while buyers hesitate to commit, uncertain about future insurance costs and the possibility of another major hurricane. Naples was once promoted as one of America's premier retirement destinations. Today, for many homeowners, it feels less like a coastal paradise and more like an increasingly expensive place where rising insurance costs, falling home values, and mounting ownership expenses have transformed the dream into a difficult financial reality. Number 7. Boise, Idaho. Boise became one of the biggest success stories of the pandemic housing boom. Thousands of people, especially from California, moved here hoping to escape soaring home prices and enjoy a more affordable, quieter lifestyle. Ironically, that wave of newcomers pushed prices so high that many of the same affordability problems quickly followed them. Between 2020 and 2022, home values surged by more than 70%, making Boise one of the fastest-growing housing markets in the country. But the momentum didn't last. By the middle of 2025, prices had fallen dramatically, with the median home value dropping from roughly $540,000 to about $285,000, a decline approaching 50%, and the market continued weakening. The city that was once promoted as a hidden treasure has increasingly become a market many buyers are hesitant to enter. Much of the demand came from remote workers who believed Boise offered the perfect combination of lower costs and a better quality of life. The problem was that while new residents arrived, the high-paying jobs many expected never expanded at the same pace. Local wages remained relatively modest, making it difficult for the housing market to support the prices reached during the boom. As demand cooled, entire neighborhoods filled with newly constructed homes suddenly found themselves with very few occupants. Some properties entered foreclosure, while others were resold only months after completion at substantial losses. In one reported case, an investor lost around $180,000 attempting to flip a newly built modern farmhouse that eventually sat empty, resembling a vacation rental waiting for visitors who never arrived. The rental market has also weakened considerably. Many landlords have shifted from raising rents to offering discounted leases, free months of rent, and other incentives simply to attract tenants and reduce growing vacancy rates. Home ownership costs continue increasing as well. Insurance premiums have risen following repeated wildfire concerns, reminding homeowners that even Idaho is no longer immune from the growing financial risks associated with extreme weather. Rapid population growth has also created social tension. Frustration between longtime residents and newcomers has become increasingly visible, while many communities continue debating who should ultimately pay for the roads, utilities, and public infrastructure that were expanded so aggressively during the boom years. Local governments now face difficult financial decisions. Small city councils that once celebrated rapid growth are responsible for large infrastructure debts issued during the expansion, yet those obligations must now be supported by a slowing housing market and a weaker tax base. Some municipalities have already begun discussing reductions in public services as budgets tighten. The economic slowdown extends beyond housing. Businesses that expanded to serve the influx of new residents are reducing staff, cutting operating hours, or closing altogether as customer traffic declines. Even Boise's popular farmers' markets, once bustling gathering places, have become noticeably smaller than they were just a few years ago. What remains is a market filled with vacant homes, rapidly expanding suburbs that outpace demand, and growing frustration among residents who watched one of America's hottest housing markets transform into one of its sharpest reversals. This is the new reality facing Boise. Number 6. San Francisco, California. For years, San Francisco stood at the center of America's technology boom. It was the city that symbolized innovation, soaring wealth, and an endless stream of opportunity. Today, however, that image has faded, replaced by a market struggling with falling property values, empty commercial buildings, and growing uncertainty about its future. At the height of the housing boom, the median home price climbed to roughly $1.6 million. In less than 3 years, that figure has reportedly fallen to under $900,000, representing a decline of around 55%. Even after such a dramatic correction, many local residents still describe the market as unaffordable. The city that helped shape the modern technology industry is now confronting a very different reality. One of the biggest changes came after remote work became a permanent option for many employees. As major technology companies reduced their office footprints or relocated workers elsewhere, downtown San Francisco lost much of the daily activity that had fueled its economy for decades. Office towers that were once full now contain growing numbers of vacant floors. Luxury condominiums have become more difficult to sell, and many retail businesses that depended on office workers have struggled to survive. Some highly publicized stores opened with great expectations, only to close a short time later as customer traffic declined. Homeowners who purchased classic Victorian houses or downtown condominiums near the market peak have watched their properties lose substantial value. In some cases, homes bought for nearly $2 million are now being appraised at only a fraction of their previous prices. The ongoing costs of ownership remain extremely high. In many condominium buildings, homeowners continue paying HOA fees exceeding $1,200 per month, even while dealing with aging infrastructure and maintenance issues that residents feel are not being addressed quickly enough. Insurance has become another growing challenge. As wildfire risks expand across Northern California, some homeowners report increasing difficulty obtaining affordable coverage, even for properties located many miles away from the highest risk areas. Investors who once viewed San Francisco real estate as one of the safest long-term investments have become increasingly cautious, with many choosing to sell properties rather than continue absorbing rising ownership costs and declining values. At the same time, migration patterns have shifted. A growing number of residents have relocated to states offering lower living expenses, including Oregon and Nevada, reducing housing demand that once seemed virtually limitless. Concerns about public safety, quality of life, and changes in local economic conditions have further accelerated the population slowdown. Buildings that once had long waiting lists for apartments now compete aggressively for tenants, while moving trucks have become an increasingly common sight outside residential complexes. Downtown has also been transformed by rising commercial vacancies. Entire blocks become noticeably quieter after business hours, as empty office space reduces the foot traffic that previously supported restaurants, shops, and local businesses. Number 5. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Myrtle Beach is often imagined as the perfect coastal retreat, a place filled with sunshine, golf carts, ocean breezes, and a relaxed vacation atmosphere. But behind that carefree image, the local housing market has taken a dramatic turn. Since 2023, home values in parts of the market have fallen by more than 45%. This hasn't been a gradual slowdown or a modest correction. For many homeowners and investors, it has felt like a rapid and painful decline that erased years of appreciation in a relatively short period. What was once promoted as an affordable beach destination has become an increasingly difficult place to own investment property. During the pandemic, investors poured into Myrtle Beach, purchasing vacation condominiums and short-term rentals at an extraordinary pace. Many assumed the steady flow of tourists would continue indefinitely. Instead, the market became saturated with rental properties competing for fewer guests, leaving a growing number of units sitting vacant for extended periods. One owner reportedly lost around $80,000 in home equity while continuing to pay nearly $700 per month in HOA fees for a condominium building struggling with deferred maintenance, including a neglected swimming pool and an elevator that had stopped working. To make matters worse, some owners have found themselves unable to generate rental income after homeowners associations introduce stricter leasing rules. In certain communities, policy changes limited or prohibited short-term rentals, leaving investors responsible for mortgage payments, HOA fees, and maintenance costs without the income they originally expected. Insurance has become another major financial burden. As concerns over hurricanes and coastal flooding continue to grow, many insurance companies have significantly increased premiums or reduced coverage in high-risk areas. In some cases, homeowners have experienced premium increases of roughly 60% in less than 2 years, while others have faced policy cancellations as insurers reassess their exposure to coastal storm risk. Meanwhile, residential construction has continued in many flood-prone areas, adding more inventory to a market already struggling with slowing demand and rising ownership costs. Vacation rental managers who once enjoyed fully booked summer seasons are now offering deep discounts simply to attract guests and keep properties occupied. The slowdown has broader consequences for the community as well. Tourism revenue, which supports many local services and infrastructure projects, has fallen short of earlier expectations, creating additional pressure on budgets for road improvements, beach maintenance, and other public investments. Number 4. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas has always been a city built around taking chances. But for many people who purchased a home after 2021, the biggest gamble wasn't made inside a casino. It was buying into the local housing market. Since reaching its peak, the median home price has reportedly fallen from around $475,000 to under $280,000, representing a decline of roughly 60%. Rather than stabilizing, the market has continued to face downward pressure, leaving many recent buyers with homes worth far less than they originally paid. The city famous for risk-taking has found itself confronting one of its own biggest financial setbacks. During the housing boom, investors flooded both the Strip and surrounding suburbs, purchasing nearly every available property with the expectation that appreciation and rental income would continue indefinitely. As competition intensified, many local residents found themselves priced out of neighborhoods they had long called home. Now the market has shifted dramatically. Many short-term rental properties are struggling with lower occupancy as tourism growth has cooled, while casino employees and other service workers increasingly find it difficult to afford housing in the city their jobs help support. At the same time, long-term environmental challenges are becoming harder to ignore. Ongoing concerns about water availability and increasingly extreme summer temperatures have contributed to rising utility costs and higher insurance premiums for many homeowners. Some residents report monthly water bills that have become a major household expense, rivaling other significant costs such as vehicle payments. The rapid pace of construction that defined the boom years has also slowed sharply. On the edges of the city, some large residential developments remain only partially completed after builders encountered weakening demand, financing challenges, and a shrinking pool of qualified buyers. In some neighborhoods, unfinished streets, vacant lots, and partially built homes now stand as reminders of projects that stalled before reaching completion. Even Las Vegas's tourism industry has begun showing signs of caution. As resorts continue increasing fees while visitor patterns evolve, many businesses are paying closer attention to changing demand than they were during the years of rapid expansion. The financial strain extends well beyond homeowners. Many service workers who commute from more affordable suburbs now spend a growing portion of their income on transportation, utilities, and everyday living expenses, while wages have not increased at the same pace as household costs. Local lenders have also reported an increase in distressed sales across neighborhoods that were once considered prime investment markets. More sellers are accepting lower offers simply to exit properties before financial pressures become even greater. Even longtime residents who purchased homes decades ago are noticing visible changes. As newer owners choose to sell, relocate, or face financial hardship, some neighborhoods are seeing higher vacancy rates and a growing number of homes returning to the market. Las Vegas built its identity around the idea that the house always wins. But in today's housing market, many homeowners feel as though the odds have turned against them instead. Number 3. Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City is often associated with breathtaking mountain scenery, clean air, world-class skiing, and a reputation for being more affordable than many West Coast cities. But beneath that image, the housing market has experienced one of the sharpest reversals in the country. Between 2020 and 2022, home prices surged by roughly 75%, fueled by low interest rates, remote work, and a flood of new buyers. What followed was an equally dramatic reversal. Prices have since fallen by more than 40%, and the market has continued facing downward pressure. The city that once seemed like an affordable alternative to California suddenly found itself dealing with many of the same housing problems. As remote workers relocated from higher-cost states, many arrived with significant purchasing power, often making cash offers that drove bidding wars across the region. Local buyers struggled to compete, and home prices climbed far beyond what many longtime residents could comfortably afford. Then conditions changed. Technology layoffs spread through the economy, mortgage rates rose rapidly, and demand cooled almost overnight. Many of the same buyers who had rushed into the market are now trying to sell, with listings increasingly emphasizing motivated seller and significant price reductions in an effort to attract offers. The rental market has weakened as well. Apartment communities that once maintained waiting lists are now offering generous incentives, including several months of free rent, simply to fill vacant units. Home ownership costs continue moving in the opposite direction. Insurance premiums have increased because of growing concerns about wildfire risks along the foothills, while earthquake exposure has also become a larger consideration for insurers and homeowners alike. Many suburban communities have also become more aggressive in enforcing HOA regulations, with residents reporting frequent fines and stricter oversight as associations seek to maintain neighborhood standards and cover rising operating costs. Ironically, many first-time buyers who were priced out during the housing boom are now watching values decline without being able to fully benefit. Although homes have become less expensive, higher mortgage rates and tighter lending requirements have made qualifying for a loan considerably more difficult than it was just a few years ago. The market is also feeling the effects of oversupply. Across newly developed neighborhoods on the valley floor, builders are offering substantial incentives, discounted prices, and free upgrades in an effort to move unsold inventory that accumulated after demand slowed.